Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful. I'd like to welcome you, dear viewers, to another in our series, In the Light of Islam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah's peace and blessings be on each and every one of you. In this segment of our program, we continue to look at letters from our viewers, as this program has been specifically designed to provide for you, dear viewers, a means of answering any of the questions that you have regarding certain aspects of Islam, or things where Islam has something to say. It may not necessarily be a part of Islam itself, but it could be issues if you'd like to know what is the Islamic position with regards to these things. So you're welcome to write in, fax in, email, however you'd like to get information to us. Even if you pass by the station on the way to work or whatever and drop it off at the guards who guard the station, security, you're welcome to send it any way you can. Anyway, the first letter we'll be looking at is one from Oman, wherein our person who wrote in, Nasser Al-Abri, who he writes in saying to Dr. Bilal, I'm one of your program viewers, which is very interesting in Islamic teachings. I don't know. Unfortunately, the program is being broadcast about 2 p.m. local time, meaning 2 a.m. actually, early morning, which makes it very difficult for people to watch and wake up for Fajr prayers, that's the early morning prayers. Is there any reason for that, or is it to target viewers outside of the Gulf region? If the program is meant for Gulf viewers, I would like to suggest the program should be broadcasted after Maghrib prayers or Isha prayers, which will benefit a lot of people in the Gulf region. I would appreciate if this time could be changed, and also the questions and answers will be provided on Sharjah TV internet site. I would like to thank my brother Nasser for a very nice suggestion. That is that on the Sharjah TV internet site, the question and answers could be provided. This is something the administration will be informed about. Perhaps if it is feasible, we'll try to do that. Otherwise, the late broadcast of the program, which is at 2 a.m. in the morning, this is due to the broadcast for Europe and West Africa. Ghana, Nigeria, these countries, as well as Tunisia, Algeria, France, England, etc. That broadcast at 2 gets it to them, at an earlier period, which is someplace around 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock. So that was the intent of that broadcast. Now there is an earlier broadcast which is at 10:30. This is for the region, this area. So perhaps you're not aware of it, so maybe you can look earlier for this earlier broadcast. Okay, our next question, one of our lecture questions, it states, Dear Dr. Bilal, can your sister's husband be a mahram if you don't have a brother or son who's old enough? The idea of the mahram, of course, is a non-marriageable male who would provide guardianship or protection for a marriageable female, right? A non-marriageable male meaning there's somebody whom she cannot marry. Her father, her brother, her uncle, her son. These are the main, grandfather also. These are the main categories. And I should also stress here, when we say uncle, it means either her mother's brother or her father's brother, because the husband of her mother's sister or her father's sister is not considered to be mahram. They could marry her because they're not related to her by blood. So the question here now, can your sister's husband? No. Sister's husband cannot be mahram. In fact, the sister's husband, the Prophet ﷺ said regarding the husbands of sisters as al-hamu al-maut. that sisters' husbands are deaf, as deaf for you as a woman. Why deaf? In the sense that it's very dangerous for your religion, because you tend to take that individual as your brother, is like your brother, is your sister's husband. So there's a kind of a closeness there, and it tends to cause women who don't observe these strict divisions between the sexes to let their guard down. Maybe they won't cover themselves properly and these kind of things, and as such the husband of the sister becomes attracted to her or whatever, and we have cases of adultery, many cases of adultery as a result of this. So the sister's husband cannot be mahram, and you as a woman, Muslim woman, must cover in front of him the way you cover in front of any man off the street. No difference in that respect between himself and any other man off the street. Another question, dear Dr. Bilal: a girl who has come of age and wants to cover herself, but her father doesn't allow her to cover her head, then what should she do? It's obviously, from somebody who is younger. Of course, the age at which she's required to cover herself is the age of puberty. However, if a young girl wanted to cover herself earlier, then the parents should not discourage her, because though, technically speaking, the requirement for covering is only at the age of puberty, if we consider that a woman who doesn't start covering earlier will likely find it much more difficult to cover at the time of puberty. So by not having some kind of previous practice, then the tendency for young girls to rebel against covering when it's introduced at the age of puberty is much greater. And this is why we can find this from the principle of the Prophet Muhammad in which he said, teach your children salah, the compulsory prayers, the formal compulsory prayers, by the age of 7. So the fact that you're going to teach them at the age of 7 means you're going to teach them that they should cover themselves, this is girls, cover themselves whilst praying. So that's actually from the age of 7, and spank them for it when they're 10. So we're trying to develop in their practice, in the norm practice of their daily lives, prayer. Prayer which requires for the girls covering in a particular way, for the boys covering also, but in the girls in a particular way, that is covering their head, etc. So they're getting that training from the time they're 7, strengthening it by the time they're 10. So when puberty comes around, it's already a norm. It's not an abrupt transition. So though when we say, legally speaking, and at the age of 11 of puberty, which could be anywhere between 11 and 13, and this age is the actual age at which it becomes compulsory, it doesn't mean that you don't introduce it earlier and leave it till the last minute. Now, in the case of this girl who wants to cover herself, assuming that she has reached the age of puberty and her father doesn't allow her, well, my first advice is that she should try to go ahead and do it anyway, in spite of the fact that her father is against it and he is forbidding her. She should go ahead and do it anyway. Of course, it's a very tough decision, but she should remember, as the Prophet Muhammad said, لا طاعة لمخلوق في معصية الخالق, that